What a relief it was to have the last living hostages return to their homes and families on October 13th of this year. It's been much more difficult to retrieve the bodies of the hostages taken, many of whom were killed on October 7th and their bodies taken hostage. As of today, there are still 4 hostages somewhere in the tunnels under Gaza. Some people don't understand why it is so important to Israel to receive every single body. Why would they be considered as critical to be returned as any of those kidnapped on that day? They're dead. Why should peace or even the ceasefire be contingent on the return of the bodies more than 2 years later? To quote a former Secretary of State, what difference at this point does it make? The answer to these questions can be found in Chayei Sarah. At the very beginning of the portion, Sarah dies, and we learn of the lengths to which Abraham went to ensure she was buried properly. Abraham and Sarah were in Hebron in the land of Canaan at the time of her death. After mourning for her, Abraham set about securing a burial plot. He owned no land and referred to himself as a resident alien. He went to the Hittites and asked them to sell him a burial plot for his wife. Their magnanimous response was to say that he was respected and loved by the Hittite people and that he could bury Sarah in whatever burial place there was in the land. Appreciative of their generosity, Abraham asked to speak to Ephron, son of Zohar. The mere fact that Ephron's father was named indicates that perhaps Ephron was of nobility to the people. Abraham wanted to buy the cave of Machpelah at the edge of Ephron's land. In fact, Abraham told the Hittites, "Let him sell it to me at the full price for the burial site in your midst." Ephron refused to sell, saying he would give it to Abraham so that he could bury Sarah. However, Abraham was insistent that he be able to purchase it. A piece of land worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? Ephron said. Go and bury your dead. Abraham simply would not accept the gift. He did not want to be beholden to Ephron or anyone else. He did not want a gift of land to become a sticking point for his descendants to be able to visit the grave at a later time. More on that in the postscript. Since the price was deviously mentioned in Ephron's offer, that is what Abraham paid for a field with a cave suitable for burying Sarah. As time went on, the cave at Machpelah became the resting place for Sarah and Abraham, Isaac and Rebekah, and Jacob and Leah. Jacob died in Egypt, and his son Joseph made sure that Jacob's request to be buried in Israel be honored. He went to great lengths to ensure that happened. So what? What's the big deal? First of all, in Judaism, the body is sacred. It is more than just a physical shell borrowed for the soul to inhabit during its brief stay on earth. It is a holy vessel, and without the body, the soul cannot fulfill its earthly purpose. That is the primary reason that even after death, Jewish law insists that the dignity of the body be preserved. Cremation is prohibited, as is a delay in burial or any kind of public display of the body, aka an open casket. God told Adam, "For dust you are, and to dust you shall return," as a reminder that his body was to be returned to the earth, respectfully and carefully. In Judaism, death is considered a process, not an ending. The soul must separate from the body, and that disengagement is not sudden or even final. To leave a body unburied is to leave the soul's journey incomplete. This is why we say Kaddish upon the death of a person. We say it every day for a month after the loss of a spouse, sibling, or child, and for 11 months after the loss of a parent. It's our way of telling them their spirit that telling them, their spirit, it's okay. God is there. He's welcoming you. On the anniversary of a loved one's death, Kaddish is said again as a remembrance. Another imperative is that a Jew should be buried in Israel. On his deathbed, Jacob was insistent that his son Joseph carry his body to Machpelah for burial. Joseph also made his brothers promise that his body be carried out of Egypt after his death. And in Exodus 13:19, we read that Moses fulfilled that promise and carried the bones of Joseph with him as the Israelites left Egypt. Just so happens that Joshua made the deal to buy the tomb where Joseph was buried. Today, with Jews in the diaspora scattered around the world, it's customary to sprinkle a bit of soil from Israel into the grave to signify that link to the homeland. Burying the dead is also considered a final act of kindness. It is the highest kindness that can be paid, since the recipient cannot ever reciprocate. There is emotional healing in the act, a restoration of peace for those left to mourn. After death, the grave becomes a sort of conduit to the heavens, a place where your loved one can hear and see you most clearly. It's where you go to cry and remember the one who left. Holding the bodies of hostages these past 2 years has trapped their families in an eternal suspension, waiting to finally lay their loved one to rest. The primary goal of burial is a reminder that Kol Yisrael Re'avim Ze Bozeh, which means all Jews are responsible for one another. No one should be left behind, and that includes those whose bodies are currently held in Gaza. Abraham's death is recorded at the end of Chayei. Perhaps most significant is the fact that both of his sons, Ishmael and Isaac, stood side by side to bury him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field that he purchased from Ephron, son of Zohar. Death is a final step in our soul's journey. May we not disrespect the body, which was uniquely connected to that soul during its life. May each and every hostage be returned soon. Postscript. Today, Machpelah is a shrine of sorts, a place to visit when in Israel. It's just outside of Hebron, which lies within the territory known as the West Bank. It's occupied primarily by the Arabs, with more than 200,000 Palestinians and just 700 Jews. Access to the tomb of the patriarchs and matriarchs is limited, but the small Jewish population near Hebron ensures that there is a synagogue and access to this holy site. Joseph's tomb in Nablus is also under the control of the Palestinian Authority, PA. Jews are no longer allowed to visit. After the 1967 war, Israel regained access and built a small Jewish seminary there in the 1980s. According to the Oslo Accords, the PA is required to maintain security of the site and allow Jews unhindered access. However, that agreement fell apart in October of 2000. In 2014, Palestinians tried to burn down the tomb during a protest. And in April of 2022, Palestinian rioters stormed the site, shattered the tombstone, and set it on fire. It's largely inaccessible today, save for coordinated pilgrimages. However, even those are dangerous, and multiple incidents in 2023 in which Jews were attacked and blocked from entering has brought even that to a halt.